Alright. Sick as a mofo right now, but I'm going to talk about a build I plan on possibly starting. A Berserker using this mace, or scepter, with Bringer of Rain. I think Bringer of Rain is always going to be relatively cheap at the start, and it has these 3 support gems, giving you a free 7 link early in the league. Very strong. And I really want to use it. So when I'm thinking of starters, I'm thinking what starters can I use with the Bringer of Rain. This weapon, I doubt anyone has it on their radar. I doubt anyone's going to use it. It should be super cheap as well and relatively powerful. So what I'll be doing with this Berserker is a Frozen Legion, which I have right here. Frozen Legion, Vol Smite, Berserker. Get a bunch of rage, pop Berserk, hit them with a Frozen Legion and some smites. So the objective is to plow through map super quick with Vol Smite, get to the boss, pop Berserk, hit it with Smite, then Frozen Legion, and you should be able to kill him. You could even squeeze in some elemental equilibrium if you wanted. So when you're hitting with Smite, you're giving your Frozen Legion negative 25% to resistances, which is pretty good, depending on the kind of damage that Frozen Legion does. I'm hoping with this type of a setup, you can just get to the boss, hit Berserk, hit it with a Smite, hit it with the Frozen Legion, and then the boss is dead. If that's the case, you're going to have some very smooth mapping. So you're going to be hitting Vol Smite to clear giant waves of packs. Then when you get to the boss, you hit it with Frozen Legion, and his ass is dead. Now, you're obviously going to have your Frozen Legion in a 4-link because you're not going to have a chess piece, and this is where your Smite is going to go. And the faster attacks is really good with Smite. Melee physical, really good with Smite. Blind, really good with Smite. So this is just the basic template right here. Now, you can choose to forego, you can look at a more basic template like this, and you can choose to forego this block and these endurance charges at the start and just go much more streamlined like this. These mace nodes here are pretty strong because you get AoE, which is going to be important for both Frozen Legion and Smite. And stun threshold, not so important. You get extra rage here, plus the new strike skills target 1 additional nearby enemy. So that's one of the main reasons I went Berserkers, because these nodes right here are already kind of strong, getting them more rage, but the fact that you can get this strike skill within the mastery of this node and coming up this way is already kind of beneficial. I figured, this might be a good opportunity to do a Berserker. I haven't played Berserker in a very long time. And looking at the mods, I think damage is going to be king in this type. Damage is always king, if we're being real. If we're playing softcore, damage is always king. But since it sounds like you run out of time in the new league event, regardless of how long you survive, you just kind of run out of time slowly. That's what it's kind of sounding like. I'm guessing that just banking on damage is probably going to be a good idea. And I think with this weapon, you're going to be able to utilize precise technique as well as elemental overload. I'm not positive it's going to work, but it says every 16 seconds you gain elemental overload, which means you get elemental overload, which is this ability here, 40% more elemental damage. And this weapon converts 50% physical into lightning, and Smite converts 50%. So you're going to be doing 100% lightning damage with Smite, 100% cold damage with Frozen Legion. And all of that is originally physical damage converted to elemental. So you're going to be able to capitalize on Herald of Fire if you want. You're going to be able to capitalize on Hatred if you want. Those two right there start with physical and then convert it. So you can do some pretty strong stuff there. You're probably going to want to use the, I forget what the all elements curse is, but the curse that hits all elements, not like Frost. I can't remember the name of any of these curses. Frostbite or Flame Bite. I'm going to call it Flame Bite. Oh, fuck. I'm just going to Google it right now. Curses Curses, POE, flammability. There we go. That's the one I was thinking of. So you're probably going to want... Oh, motherfucker, just give me a list of the fucking curses. Jesus. There they are. You're probably going to want to use elemental weakness because you're going to be hitting with lightning and cold. You could possibly do elemental weakness and another one, but I think elemental weakness will be just fine. Hit with elemental weakness and then maybe something else like punishment if you get a double curse situation, but I don't think I'm going to go double curse. I'm just going to use elemental weakness and that's it. And maybe a mark, maybe not. But elemental weakness will be pretty good. And I don't know how well elemental equilibrium will be. And I'm pretty sure this scepter here is going to allow precise technique, which is 40% more damage. And then elemental overload whenever you have it every 8 seconds, every 16 seconds for 8 seconds. So, you know, it's a pretty good amount of time. And then it'll give you resolute technique, which won't matter because we're going to have a lot of accuracy rating anyways for precise technique. But, you know, it's nice to have, I guess. And these mace notes here are pretty good because you're going to get more AoE here and pathing right in here. So just naturally, you're getting a mace node here. You're getting these mace nodes here. And these mace nodes up here are pretty strong too because they also provide a little bit of accuracy, which is going to be important because maces don't have a lot of accuracy. And you need that for the elemental, not elemental, you need that for precise technique. Now, 5% penetration from here. There's a lot of different options you can do. If you really wanted to, you can path over this way and get this spell block and then get this node here because we're going to be doing lightning and cold. So probably path towards the lightning. And you're going to be taking 5% increased elemental damage for any enemies that are shock or frozen. And you'll be shocking and freezing pretty good. So you can do that. This is some pretty good damage. So that's an option. You can go down that route. I will probably go down this route here because this is a lot of really powerful nodes. And then I'll do this block and block, and I'll be doing that because I'll be using Bringer of Rain, and you already have a 6% chance to block attacks, and then when you block, you get an endurance charge. So I will probably pop an endurance charge there, and then these here. Now with the Berserker, you're going to need a lot of regen, so this actually is going to be pretty good. This 2% life regeneration per endurance charge, that's going to be pretty strong with the Berserker because you lose life with your rage. And since I'm going to be getting, you know, quite a bit of rage, you get 10 here plus another 10 here. So at minimum, I'm going to be at 70 rage. I don't know if I'm going to be using the rage belt, but I'll probably use the rage belt, bear's girdle or whatever, but it'll take a while before I get it. On my ultra cheap budget, I'm assuming this helmet is going to be very cheap. Hopefully I haven't pumped up this helmet so much that it's going to be expensive in the next league. I'm thinking it's going to be cheap. This scepter should be extremely cheap. And with the Berserker, it should be pretty useful because Berserker has this 40% more damage node. So already going to be doing a fuck ton of damage. This just hits a lot of like nice to haves. A lot of nice to haves with the elemental overload and the fact that it converts 50% of your physical to lightning. So you're getting the free convert. You're getting the elemental overload. It just seems like a very good mace to have early on, early league. This seems like a pretty strong early league mace, and your attack speed's not that important. You're going to get it pumped up a lot from Berserk, but even if you don't, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, if you really want to avoid the extra skill points, you can grab that right there, which will give you 1 less skill point. And if you are concerned about your life loss, this is actually a pretty solid way to route it. Like that. So you can get rid of this if you really wanted to. Pretty smart way to route it. You can also avoid routing any of here and go up through this way and get through it that way. There's a lot of different ways you can route it. But I think this is how I'll do it. Level 91, I probably will avoid these area of effects unless I really need it. Now the downside here is I really want to get these mace nodes here too because these are also quite strong. and then pop that life here. But that puts me at level 98. So I have to do a lot of stuff in order to, you know, make this work. So one thing you could do is just pop these off, which sucks because those are very powerful. Then you're at 94, but 94 is still too high. So then if you really wanted to, you can get rid of these extra endurance charges if you really, really wanted to. But you're really point starved here. Really starved for points because there's just so many good nodes you can take. So many strong nodes you can take. And even pathing into these right here to give more aura effect is extremely strong. And just so many good stuff you can take. It makes it difficult to properly utilize the absolute best way to path your character. But I think losing these strong mace nodes and these really strong life nodes is probably going to be a good idea. Now this part is super awkward because you can come down this way and get this life node, which is really strong because of the 1.6 life regeneration. Golem's blood is extremely powerful. And you do it like this, but you're still going to be a little high on the skill point area, in which case you can drop out probably one of these. There's not too much else you can drop out. Maybe that. You're going to want this life regen, I think. But if you could pop out, if you can do it without the life regen, you can go there, take out that life. Then you're at like a 92, which is pretty early league. Oh, you're going to need corrupted blood here too. Yeah. It'll be difficult to determine exactly how to path it. But this is kind of the base. Probably won't do this block until later into the game. So this is kind of probably how you're going to start out. I think it's going to be really strong. I'm leaning towards this as my starter. I really like Smite as a skill. So Vol Smite is already going to work for me, guaranteed. Now the only question is whether or not this Frozen Legion is also going to work. But that's not that big of a deal because Vol Smite all by itself is strong enough to do it all. Now Frozen Legion, hopefully, after I pop Berserk on a boss, I should be able to just smite, Berserk, Smite, Frozen Legion. And if I grab this right here, might even help even more. Berserk, Smite, Frozen Legion. Boss dead. Now, I don't know how much you're going to be able to gain rage in the new event. It looks like there wasn't a lot of enemies, but they might be kind of strong. So you might be able to gain a lot of rage on the new event, or it's possible that the new event you're gonna fucking lose all of your rage after each phase, and you're not gonna be able to build up a lot of rage. Now there are the gloves that build up rage for your life regen, and then you don't get your life regen, which makes it difficult because then you're gonna need leech. So if you wanted to do it as a slayer, you can use these rage gloves to build up your rage, to pop your berserk, to hit with your Frozen Legion, or you can ignore berserk altogether. It's a very, very difficult. I kind of want to build a Berserker because I haven't played a Marauder in a very long time. And when I transition into late game, I'll switch from a Berserker to a Juggernaut for all the tanky benefits of the Juggernaut. And the Juggernaut, I'll probably path like this right here to get super tanky. I don't really need this accuracy, but I could get rid of that node, or even this node and this node. Get this really strong elemental resist, life regeneration for days, and with this life regeneration I can either use the rage gloves or just use it to stay alive indefinitely with all this regen. Very strong defensive layers, but with that I'll probably have to get a better weapon than this one in order to use a Juggernaut. So Juggernauts are extremely strong because they get a lot of defensive layers, and towards the late game, in this game, gear is king. So when you get really good gear, applying that really good gear to a Juggernaut amplifies the defensive layers with basically top tier gear for your offensive layers. So you're only using your gear for your offense and not so much your passives. The Berserker is really good because you can use your passives to do your damage and not so much your gear. So for low gear, the Berserker is extremely strong because it'll allow piece of shit gear like this, I can't even say this, Augyre, This Scepter here is going to be really strong with the Berserker, but not very strong with the Juggernaut. And there's a lot of other classes that this would work with. We can take a look at the Templar, for instance. He has the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor would be pretty strong, but this node here, critical strikes ignore resistances, is kind of defeated by Elemental Overload and Resolute Technique. So that's why I'm not using an Inquisitor. An Elementalist could be pretty good because you can do a chill and shock build. So your smites will shock, and then your chill would be super strong for your Frozen Legion. You can either do golems or this one here. I'd probably do golems with these two nodes, so that could be pretty strong. Trickster can work, because with the Trickster you have these lightning nodes, which are pretty strong, and this elemental penetration. And a Raider can work. Raider actually looks pretty strong. The only reason I dislike the Raider is the Raider's going to be getting a lot of attack speed, which doesn't benefit Frozen Legion at all. Attack speed is useless for Frozen Legion. Spellcast speed may be a little better, but even that's pretty useless. You mostly just want high physical damage on your weapon, which this weapon doesn't really have too much high physical damage, but I'm guessing it's going to be strong even with a weaker weapon like this. It looks like it's going to have really good numbers for bossing. You just pop it and it's going to hit really hard. That's my assumption. And especially with a Berserk going, you hit Berserk, and it should hit hard. I'm pretty excited for it. I think it'll be fun. I really like Smite. I really like the Berserker. You're going fast. You're fucking taking a ton of damage. And you can also take the Atlas passive tree node that does 25% less damage against you, and then enemies have like 50% more life or some shit like that. And that'll offset this. And I think it'll just basically mean that you're going to take 15% less damage and do 10% less damage, if my math is right in my head. Either way, it synergizes very nice with Aspect of Carnage if you want to go and not die. Like if you're trying to level up from level 88 to 92, 92, 93 is typically where I stop my characters, because going any higher than that is a waste of time. But when you want to get to that far, you can if you want to get to that far, you can then pop that Atlas passive on to get yourself tanky enough to where you're not dying, and you can level up. Level up to 93, get your stuff set up. So this, I think, is going to be a pretty strong starter. Now, I'll probably do a different build for other starters that I think that are going to be strong. Nightblade received a nerf because of Shadow Step. It's not called Shadow Step, is it? Whatever that fucking Withering Step. Because Withering Step got nerfed, which is great. But because of that, I think that Nightblade stuff, Nightblade builds, might be kind of cheap, might be relatively inexpensive. The only thing that is keeping me away from starting a Nightblade build is the fact that poison damage and physical damage over time, but in this instance mostly poison damage, also received a pretty big buff with the curse nodes, with the curse modification nodes. Received a pretty big buff there. So I'm kind of going to avoid that simply because poison got such a big buff that I think the wasp nests are still going to be expensive. And I think a lot of the Nightblade support stuff is still going to be pretty pricey. The occultist is still going to be plenty strong and probably see even more action. Even though the occultist got nerfed, I think the occultist is going to receive even more of a player base, if I'm thinking about it correctly, because you get that extra curse and you're already up here for the extra curse stuff, and a lot of people are going to want to be doing these curses because they are very strong. So I think the occultist still going to be top tier. Inquisitor is still going to be top tier. Berserker, probably not that top tier, to be honest. So I think it'll be a cheap gearing. And I think this is being slept on. Not necessarily slept on. I think this is probably trash tier unique. But early on, I think it's going to be really strong with Smite and Frozen Legion. So that is probably my starter. I gotta wait for them to release the gem notes and all that jazz. And if the gem notes say that, you know, Frozen Legion is kind of crappy, it's not going to do enough damage at high levels. We'll see how it scales with levels. Maybe Frozen Legion scales super hard with levels, so then I can do something else with it. What kind of tags does it got? It's got spell, cold, attack, AoE, melee. That's pretty interesting. I don't know if you'll be able to use fortify with it. I might do something like this if I can use fortify with it. Pop here, this 10% damage reduction while you have fortify, at least 20. Really strong for the Berserker because you're taking so much extra damage from this right here. Now being able to reduce some of this damage over time is really strong. A lot to be said. That is the plan. I am going to go die because I have the Covidius, which is unfortunate because I never leave my house. My lovely wife went out to a bunch of fucking book club stuff or something, and then caught it from a bunch of plague rats, and then brought it back to me. So that fucking blows. So yeah, I'm gonna go curl up and die. I am very excited for the league. I'll check you guys later.